I'm just going to do a brief explanation of each question. They're already worked out here on the key. On number 1, it says state the degree, describe the end behavior, and tell me zeros it has. Well, the degree is 5 because that's the highest exponent. That means it's going to have 5 zeros. That does not mean they're all real zeros. And since it's an odd function with a positive leading coefficient, as x goes to the right, so as x goes to infinity, the graph is going up, f of x is going to infinity. And as x goes to negative infinity, the graph is going down to negative infinity. Is the graph shown even or odd? Well, if it starts down and ends up, if it starts in different directions, or starts in a different direction than it ends, it's going to be an odd function. So number 2 is an odd function. It crosses the x-axis 3 times, so it has 3 real zeros. Number 3, it says divide. I did synthetic division. It is not a factor because the remainder is 2. If the remainder was 0, we've been in good shape. And I actually should have said that that is 6x squared minus 3x with a remainder of 2. On number 4, I got each real zero from the graph. Negative 3, negative 1, 1, 2, and 4. It's the places where it crossed. And I left it in factored form, meaning it's all the factors listed out. I did not multiply them out. So I just took each root and listed it as a factor, and that is the factored form of the equation. Without division, find the remainder. The same idea. We have x minus 2. That means c equals positive 2. Plug in a positive 2, and you get a remainder of negative 9. Number 6, it says solve. Solve is just a fancy way of saying find the roots or find the zeros. This particular one, all of the roots were rational numbers, meaning that they were numbers that could be written as a fraction. They were not radicals. So I was able to get all the roots straight from the calculator. I did not need to do synthetic division. If any of the roots had been really long repeating decimals or any type of decimal, you would have had to do synthetic division, get it to a quadratic, and then possibly do quadratic formula. But that is number 6, where I just put it in the calculator and got all those roots. 7 and 8, a double root at negative 5 means I had to bounce at negative 5. I added up the total number of roots. There's 2 at negative 5 and then 2 more total. That means it's an even degree. You have 4 roots with a negative leading coefficient. It means it had to start down and end down. You had to bounce at negative 5 and you had to go through the other 2 points. Number 8, you had a triple root at negative 4. So you needed to do a snake through negative 4 and then just slice through the other 2 roots. There were 5 total roots, meaning it had to start down, end up. On the second page, number 9, which of the following is true if the degree is even and the leading coefficient is negative? It means it's going to start down and end down. So letter C, f of x will go to negative infinity in both circumstances. Number 10, write a polynomial with degree 3 with those roots. Well, a root of negative 5 comes from a factor x plus 5. A root of 2 comes from the factor x minus 2. One of them had to be squared. It did not matter which one. You had to have a total degree of 3. Here you had to have a total degree of 3 with only one root. It's the only root, so it had to be cubed. So it's x plus 4 cubed. 12 is pretty tricky. You had to draw your original rectangle, which was 12 by 10. And you're cutting out 4 squares, but they didn't tell you the length and width of the squares, but you do know that they're going to be the same. So on each little square, I made their length and width x. What that means is when we cut, we're going to cut x from every direction. That means we get 2 cut from the left, 2 cut from the right. So from left to right, it used to go 12. Well, now we have x gone from both sides for a total of 2x being removed. So we have 12 minus 2x is the new length. 10 going up and down was the original, but we removed x from the top and x from the bottom for a total of 2x. So 10 minus 2x is the new height, the new width. The height of the whole thing, if you were to fold this up, would be x. And so I plugged it in my calculator. Remember, you have to subtract 72 to the other side. And there were 3 answers. I tested them out, and only 2 of them worked. So both of them could be the height. We don't know which one it is. The last one, 7.162, when I plugged that in for x, the length and the width were both negative numbers, and that cannot happen. So that one does not work. So your answers would have been 0.838 or 3. Either one of those. You would need to list both. Number 13 is all in the calculator. You put 10, 20, 30, 40, all the way to 80. Put in the corresponding y values into the statistics plot. And you copy that over to the graph. And you do a y calculation when x equals 120. Remember that your x's are in seconds. So when they give you 2 minutes, you need to change that to seconds. Looking at that graph, it starts down, ends up. So it starts and ends in different directions, making it an odd degree. And it is a positive leading coefficient because it starts down and it ends up. Factor completely. When I graphed that, there was a bounce at 1. So I knew there were at least 2 roots at 1. So I used 1 twice. I did synthetic division, got my answer, used synthetic division again with the number 1 both times. At the end of the day, I got 2x squared plus 5, so I knew there were no more real roots. And we were completely factored at that point. You cannot factor at 2x squared plus 5. So this one just said find the factors. So x minus 1 squared, because there's 2 of those, and 2x squared plus 5 are the factors. And then the last question, number 16, it says find all zeros. I graphed it. I got 6 as my only whole number root. I did synthetic division to that. And at the end of that, I got x squared plus 7. Now this one asks for the zeros, so I need to set them, all of the factors need to be set to 0 and solved. So I got x squared plus 7 equals 0, which means x is plus or minus I root 7. X minus 6 equals 0 means x equals 6. And then I listed all those.